Great, thank you, Willis.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to ask a couple of questions and then we will review the results and get going. Here we go. Okay, just wait another second or so. Okay. Can you all see the results? Very, I mean, I'll let the trainers talk about this, but this is very interesting. Any comments? Nice diversity of rationale here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm curious. I'm curious what the other is, I'll be honest.
Yeah, did either one who answered other want to explain what the other is?
Yeah, good meal once a week.
That is a good one.
Yep.
Excellent.
I answered other, and it's mostly because for almost 40 years I was a professor, and when I retired, I just needed a sense of purpose. And so Rotary gives me that sense of purpose.
Got it. Excellent. Okay.
Nice.
Let's bring up the next question.
Always interesting watching the results come in.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
very interesting. Okay. End the poll.
Wow. Yeah. Can everybody see those results? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So we've got a lot of seasoned leaders here.
Mm-hmm.
It does suggest to me and the district leadership that the next time we put on the membership assembly, we need to do a little bit of target marketing to the people that have not been in Rotary as long. I think because that would also be interesting and good diversity. Okay, last question.
That's the first question.
Well, the first one was, why did you join Rotary? This one is, why are you in Rotary today?
Mhm.
Especially given that a lot of you have been in Rotary for a number of years, there may be some differences. Very interesting.
Yes.
Okay. We'll end the poll.
Those are very interesting results.
I agree.
Yeah. I think fellowship and service went up. And
Oh,
the
yeah.
fellowship and the professional and personal development went down. So does the other want to, like we did with the first question, want to explain what the other is?
That was
That
me.
would be awesome. Okay.
The
And was
meal's
it
still good.
same
Yep.
other as the first other? Okay. Excellent. All right. Thank you very much. And by the way,
Awesome.
what I've learned, unfortunately, is when you do recording, the poll screen doesn't show. So
Oh, okay.
if you're gonna watch it, we can just talk about it, but that's why I mentioned it, but they don't see the poll window. So, okay, stop sharing and turn it over to Willis and Julie.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you. Thanks for having us today. Thanks for being here. And thanks for starting off with the polls. It kind of lets us know where you're at in your Rotary journey. And again, what brought you in today. Today, I'm going to try and not use the PowerPoint as much as possible. It's really just a visual cue and device for some of the exercises we'll be doing. But we're really excited to have you engage. If you're feeling a little shy about talking, feel free to use the chat box. And again, we really are excited to have you leave with some tangible action items that you can implement in your club. And we really want to use this group as kind of this great mind hive. So please feel free to speak up. And see, can everybody still see my screen?
Yes.
Awesome. So yeah, we're going to start off with just some really quick membership results that Rotary International kind of polls the whole world and measures trends. So we're going to really just quickly touch on that so that we're all on the same page. But then we're going to move on to discussing and approaching membership strategy like you would with Rotary's action plan. And there are 4 prongs to Rotary's action plan. As you can see here, it's impact, reach, engagement, and adapt. And for each one of those sections, we're going to be talking about case studies, most of which are actually pulled from the struggles that you yourselves are experiencing in your clubs, so that we can be approaching situations that are very true to your region, to your reality, and not, every single example we're covering is real. And if you have something that you want to chime in, a similar experience with your club, or just in the similar topic of reaching out or engagement that you want to bring up to discuss with the group, I really encourage you to participate. Then we're going to kind of discuss at the end what we're going to take with us today. How are we going to implement some of these changes or some of these ideas that you're going to come up with? And we'll quickly touch on some of the resources at the end. I believe some of those were sent to you in advance, so nothing should be a surprise there. And we're going to take a 5-minute break right in the middle of all of this so that you have, it always is good to stand up, get those muscles moving a little bit, have a bathroom break, all of that. All right, so first starting off with what members want. We found that true to the polling that we just did, local community service, connecting with others, professional and leadership development opportunities are the biggest draws, not just for people who want to join Rotary, but how they stay in Rotary. And when we asked former members why they left, most of them actually cite unmet expectations. And that can cover a lot, right? That can be anything for as basic as no one actually sat down and talked with them beforehand about what it meant to be in a Rotary club. Not only the expectations as a member, but all the opportunities too that might come with that. Or maybe in some cases, overpromised opportunities like, hey, Rotary does international projects, but then your club never actually participates in an international project. So the thing that drew them in wasn't really real to them and to their experience. So when we're looking at really how to keep members engaged, how to keep them happy in Rotary, it comes down to satisfaction, essentially. So, factors that influence the membership satisfaction. And you can tell here, this also influences member retention, and both times it is comfort with their other club members. You have an opportunity here as a club leader to help facilitate, the bonding between new members and seasoned members to really get them collaborative. I know that we've talked a lot about meeting virtual, which in some ways has kind of mixed things up a bit, right? I mean, when we met in person, you would get some members that sat in their seat at their table next to their friends. They were not interested in getting to know some of the other new members. And throwing things virtually has kind of shaken this up a bit. And we do have an opportunity to use technology and this adaptability to change things up to make sure that every member feels like they belong in that club. And so just keeping that in mind today, these factors. Okay, so first we're going to be starting with impact. And when we mean about increasing impact is, maybe it's developing a strategy. Maybe it's, assessing how we engage with the community. Maybe it's narrowing our focus. Whatever it might be, don't think of it as being more than you can handle. Think about it being streamlining our process. So for our first example, our first case study, so to speak, so the Cassiopeia Rotary Club has an active membership committee which helped members pivot quickly to meet virtually in response to the pandemic. They've continued meeting online based on the comfort levels members have expressed. They've struggled to engage parts of their community, including younger generations and the Indigenous and Latinx populations, and they aren't reflected in their current membership. The club would like to connect more with this community, including this population, but they don't know where to start. Is there anyone that can relate to this situation as it stands? I'm seeing some hands, right? Like it's a struggle when our clubs don't reflect our communities. And sometimes we're aware of this, sometimes we're not. And then there's the want and we don't know where to start. And I'm gonna take this down, but feel free I can always put this in the chat, but I want us to be able to see each other when we talk about this. So is there any ideas of where you might guess we should start, or things you yourself have also tried, whether it be successful or continued to challenge or kind of failed in that effort? Carolyn, I see your hand up.
We talk a lot about getting younger people in, but our club really does reflect our community. So Santa Fe, our average age is over 65. So we reflect that. And, you know, we're more than 50% Anglo in Santa Fe, and we reflect that as well. But of course, we want diversity. We want younger people. We want, you know, to other cultures, you know. So, you know, we struggle with that a lot.
That's
but we reflect
understandable.
who we are.
And that's okay. I was to say, that's okay too. And I'm glad you approached that, because it's not forcing diversity where maybe some of the diversity might not exist. That's definitely not what we are trying to emphasize. We want clubs to reflect their communities. So the fact that so far it does that, that's great. And then you can be working on, well, we would like also more of this niche of our population. So do you mind telling us is there any strategy that you use to go about making sure that your club reflected your community?
In terms of, and of course, you know, we're heavily male. So we try to, the women in the club try to bring in more and more women. So that's, you know, we definitely think about that quite a bit. Yeah.
Oh, I see Dean has his hand up.
Yeah, you know, our past president, Louis Gentette, some of you know, he is in his 30s, you know, and he did a very good job of bringing in some younger members. So I think if the leadership reflects younger members, and possibly even if it reflects women, you know, it's more likely that you're going to bring in people that are similar.
Spot on. I think too, when we're looking at different communities that aren't yet reflected in the club, it can seem a little intimidating. My advice, and I'm curious to see if anybody else has done this too, is without pandering to, trying to maybe develop service projects with maybe some of the existing nonprofits or organizations that have a lot of that demographic or that really involve those parts of the community, so that you can get to know them and build up those relationships without maybe saying, hey, I want you as a token member of our club. That doesn't feel good. That's not the right way. But building up relationships with parts of the community that maybe your club hasn't engaged in before could be really beneficial. Has anyone tried doing that or had success doing that?
And there's some chat going on that's been very interesting also, so please check that out too.
Thank you.
Yeah, let's hear from Jermaine. I'm sorry, because she's sending
Yeah.
these chats. How about Jermaine?
Can you
Good
unmute?
morning, everybody. I'm sorry, I'm actually in another webinar at the same time, but I was listening in, and I've recognized since I've been in New Mexico, and I was in the Taos Club when I first moved here. And the reason diversity was such a less daunting task was because it was a top priority. When members looked around the room, they knew what was missing and what they needed and what they wanted to complete the work that that club was doing. So even in towns like Santa Fe, there is diversity. However, if we do not know how to extend invitations to diverse communities and diverse cultures, it's a struggle. But it takes work, it takes cultivation, and it takes time. Therefore, it has to be a priority and not just a general conversation. So diversity does exist everywhere in New Mexico. However, how do you create the invite, number one, and how do you spend and designate the time in cultivating the relationships with other communities that do not look like the majority of the people in your club?
Thank you.
I'm
I
complete.
completely agree. I think everyone being aware of the goals there can kind of influence the service that you do, the organizations you partner with, who you pursue, to perhaps give them the benefits of working with Rotary in one way or another. I really appreciate that you shared that.
Julie,
Yes.
I don't know if this falls under the impact part of the plan, but one thing that we also talk about with diversity is diversity in skills and interests. Because oftentimes, let's say in public image, we talk a lot about public image, and a particular club doesn't have someone has that as a specialty. And so as part of their membership strategy, they want to bring in someone who has that skill set to help them with their publicity and with promoting events and things like that. So there's the skills and interests aspect of diversity as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. When it comes to diversity, you've got, the seen and the unseen, and that can be a variety of different things, whether it be, abilities, skills, ethnicity, sexual orientation, across the way. So I think, yeah, taking the time to, when you share and kind of define what that diversity means, it can be helping people kind of put that in their scope when they're looking to engage in Rotary. And then also inclusivity. I think DEI can sometimes be an emotional trigger when people say that for some reason. And I feel like, who wouldn't want to feel included? Who wouldn't want to feel like they belong, or that the club might be interested in them? And so if you're ever getting pushback on that, inclusivity, there's nothing there to be upset about. We all lose something a little when we don't feel included or when we don't include others. So I think too, and part of the resources that I had sent out, there's a community assessment tools guide. I feel like this can be a really helpful publication when you are looking to explore and work with parts of your community that you haven't engaged with previously. You know, when it comes to your fundraisers, your who you're sponsoring, and service projects, I think a lot of times we can get so excited on, you know, we've always done this project, let's keep it going. But doing a pulse check to see if it's relevant anymore could be really huge in affecting not only how you engage with the community, but the people who are interested then in engaging with you. If this is meeting a need, if this is just a project or something going on autopilot, the relevance kind of goes away. And you know, what your club is offering to share with the parts of these community, if it's not making an impact with them, they'll likely either do it themselves or just engage with someone else.
Well, and
Any
I think,
oh, sure.
I'm sorry.
No, you go, Wells.
Age diversity also is, I think, important, because I think Rotary has traditionally been folks that, you know, are able to pay for the lunches, pay for all that stuff. And because Rotary is not an inexpensive club for membership for most people. And so as far as age diversity, I know in some of the emails that we got back, you know, for the younger members, having a family, you know, being in the early part of gaining their life, you know, if you know what I mean, to be able to take that time and be a member and do projects. I think that's a struggle that was in a few emails. And if anybody has any questions or comments about that and retaining younger folks, I think that would be a good discussion too.
I think you're touching on something that bothers me about Rotary, and that's that we have economic diversity. You know, the expense of being in Rotary, and there's things that we can do to lower that too, you know. But traditionally, Rotary has been people that are fairly well off. And now we're in kind of a transition time where we supposedly are welcoming people that don't have the means. You know, why couldn't we have tradespeople in Rotary? Why couldn't we have, you know, janitors, waiters, and things? There's a lot of people there that could contribute a lot and want to be active in service to the community and stuff. And I think overall Rotary is struggling to try to find a way to bring those people in, because it doesn't fit with the model we've had before.
And our club has tiers of members in our bylaws where you can come to the meetings and just pay your dues and not do the lunch if you want, because the lunch, frankly, is a lot of the expense.
Right.
And so the other thing you can also look at, I think that some of the clubs in the district are looking towards, is instead of having 4 lunch meetings or breakfast meetings or dinner meetings, they have a project meeting once a month or a get together in an evening, like what Julie's club did the other night. So there are different ways of addressing that, I think, that can take some of that cost out, and something to think about.
I don't think it's just the costs though that keeps those people out. I think it's also that you come into a club and people talk about the money they're donating and these causes that you're donating to. And we need to somehow have a track where people can say, well, maybe I don't have the money, but I have the time. I can do something that will help people.
Good point.
Absolutely. I saw Bob had his hand up, Bob Barnard.
Yeah, I think there are two issues here. You have the issue of the young people that really aren't able to pay for the full ride. And you have the other end of the spectrum, a lot of the older and retired people are going to eventually get into that position. We had a satellite club going which only meant in the evening prior to COVID. And we're going to try to get that resurrected now that people can meet in person. And that was similar to a dues only, but more an evening social twice a month meeting requirement. So it paid attention to the cost in dollars and time for the younger people.
I can relate to that. My club's like that. We talk about, we don't have deep pockets, but we've got a lot of energy, and let's use that. Let's partner wisely and spend money wisely. And I've heard of some clubs even having membership scholarships, and the idea behind that is to help those who are at least interested in Rotary and really want to be a part of it, not let finances be a barrier. Keith, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, we actually did that last year with Lewis, and we're trying to do that, and he put it very eloquently, and I think that's still out there. We actually had a lady from our community who ran for town council, and she made a comment that I will never forget. She says, "You have to pay to do good," and it broke my heart, because our dues are, like Willis said, it's not cheap, and we really have to be cognizant. I think Dean also surmised it. We need to look at if someone has time to give us, and maybe actually I need to go back to that mother. She's a mother, and she's has a lot of energy that we can bring her in, because she is part of TAOS. She's a Hispanic, and I think we really need a person who has service in their heart, but she just said that phrase that you got to pay to do good, and it crushed me. And it's been a couple of years, and we didn't have a way to address her energy, and so we definitely, I want to go back and reach her again.
That's good. Thanks for, man, that hit like a ton of bricks. Yeah, I mean,
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, Carolyn's got her hand up.
We had an interesting situation that transpired this week. In February, we had an application from a person that had been in Rotary for some time and had dropped out for some time, enough that I didn't know her, and I've only been in Rotary 6 years. Anyways, she had put in her application but never paid her dues. Now, we started out quite high, but then with Zoom, it's just dues only. And so she'd been sent several invoices and had been assigned to several committees. So she had a lot of tasks on her plate, but was not a paying member. And I finally asked her on a Zoom meeting in front of other people, so are you thinking about joining us, joining Rotary? And she said, well, I'm going to have to ask my boss. Now, she's got a fairly good paying job. She's worked all her life. And then I approached her again on Thursday, and she got back to me saying, I can't join at this time. So she loved our club. She loved our service project. She loved being on these committees, but she didn't love to pay. So it's an interesting, and this is the first time that this has come up with us, I believe. And because she was always on our Zoom meetings, she was always, have comments and suggestions. We thought she was a member. So it was kind of an infiltration, but there is a price for membership somehow. And, it's interesting. We had talked about before trading time for money, but we're not there yet. So it was interesting. So we lost a good member because she wouldn't pay the nominal dues. And I don't know what to do about that, other than I keep in contact with her saying, we'd love to have you back, please.
Well, what we do, Carolyn, is people can contribute to the scholarship fund for memberships. And so some of the members that have money to spend, you know, we'll pay an extra $100 or something every year for their membership dues. And we have quite a bit of money in that account right now, Keith. If anybody needs any help, you know, we can offer them help, but we don't offer it openly. We wait until they ask one of the directors.
Okay,
You know, because then if we find out about it, why, we'll offer that help.
thank you.
I like that plan. Yeah, I was to say
Yeah.
$50, $100, that can add up over time and can help sponsor a variety of people, or even current members. If someone loses their job and they want to stay, this is a great way to make a meaningful contribution to your members. And I think I keep resonating too on what Keith said about pay to do good. And I feel like that's where we can also assess, beyond just the service that we're doing, what are we offering connection wise for our current or prospective members? If they just see your club as perhaps doing service projects, they might think, well, I can Google that. I can Google what's out there currently. If they don't see that that's tied to building possibly lifelong relationships, building business connections, developing personally and professionally, having opportunities to travel or do grants, you know, like maybe they don't fully understand the full scope of what Rotary can be for them. Bob, I see your hands up.
Yeah, thanks, Julie. I've heard from other clubs that have a multi-tiered dues structure, specifically for maybe the first year, where they have a reduced dues for the first year to allow younger people to get involved and really get their feet wet before they jump in full all the way. And so that's something you might want to consider. You want to make it equitable, and everybody's got to agree to that. But that's just another way of maybe helping out in that area.
I like that. And I see
Hey,
we've got, oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry, just real quick. Hey, while we're kind of on the subject, I think we may do a district poll on this later, but if you guys don't mind showing your hands, how many clubs do have a membership scholarship? So we've got 4 clubs. Okay.
Keith and I are in the same one.
Okay. So 3, that's right. You guys are both Taos Milagro. So 3 clubs anyhow. So, okay. I think we may, Jeff and I have been chatting in the background. We may send out a poll to the district and see what may show up. Tom?
If you take a membership in Rotary, is the minimum is the annual dues to RI, which is roughly $70 a year, paid semi-annually with some insurance and council and legislation and a couple other things thrown in, plus the district dues, which are $30. So in round numbers, it's about $100. What a number of clubs have done is, and we actually, Albuquerque Sandia was founded as basically minimal dues, and if you wanted to eat, you brought your own lunch. Another thing that is available that District 5520 has not got around to is each district is allowed up to 2 E clubs, and theoretically their dues are the absolute minimum, whatever the district is charging and whatever RI dues are. And the nice thing about the E clubs, they can meet together and they do things, or you can go partner up with a say the Rotary Club of Albuquerque is doing a project this week, and as a Rotarian, you can beam in and help them out and participate physically if that works for you. But between the satellite clubs, and they meet and depending on how they're set up within the host club, And I think Albuquerque Del Norte did a particularly good job of thinking through the process as they were setting up the club. They both participate with the mother club, but they also meet on their own time, and they probably have their own due schedule because they're meeting separately most of the time. So there are lots of ways to address that. And then of course there's, the big international E clubs like E Club of the Southwest and so forth. But that is a way to both participate. And we have, in my club, found that several of our members, when they became grandparents and retired and were basically RV members and moving around, the E clubs worked best for them. But every time they were in town and we were doing something, they'd drop in and participate in our programs. One of the things that, as I've been listening, is, and we kind of touched on it, is what our director Vicky talks about all the time, are the essential elements, and that's how foundation and branding or public image and membership work together. And it occurred to me, to the basic question that was proposed a while back, is you've got a problem, you would like, you don't have a number of, I think the thing proposed was Latinx, but it could be anybody. One way to do that is get the club together and decide that it's important that we have both participate and do service projects and have member slant representation from a particular area. And it's a long-term project. This is not something you flip the switch and it's all better tomorrow. But you reach out, you see, work with representative groups in the area you want to work in, see what they need, see if you can develop a project, develop partnerships with various groups and so forth. The Rotary Club of Albuquerque did this in the area east of the fairgrounds, which used to be known as the war zone, and here in Albuquerque, East Central. And we partnered up. We did what was then a matching grant, got a $35,000 matching grant, which with all of our Rotary partners ended up being over $100,000 of benefit to the community, got the community involved, got the Rotarians involved. One thing we probably, well, we absolutely did not do particularly well was the branding or PR part of it. But at least within the community, they knew that Rotary was there and we were their partners. And part of membership, of course, is retention. And getting our own members involved is key to that. So that's a couple of ideas.
Thank you for sharing that, Tom. And I was to say, good that you acknowledge that you feel like you could have done better with like the PR of it. But honestly, I think if the community is seeing and feeling the impact, and more people are kind of being engaged with by Rotary, that's huge. That's really, really impactful. Building those relationships, establishing those connections. Like you said, not like a fair weather or quick kind of thing. This is investing. This is investing in these relationships, investing in your community. So that's wonderful. We will have to move on. Before we move on, I wanted to note two things. Actually, there's no more with the two Rotary E Clubs, because an E Club, they don't really differentiate between a E Club and an in-person club anymore. So you can continue to, swivel between meeting in person or online, or do a mixture of both. So, use that flexibility as you need it. And then also I wanted to point, if you haven't read Jermaine's comment in the chat about how she was pursued by a club effectively. I love the idea that, they reached out to her, but then they also wanted her to talk about the organization that she worked with, really focusing on her passion and her work. So thank you for sharing that. We are going to move on for the sake of time. This is great discussion. Okay, so next we're going to talk about reach. And you'll notice as we're talking about these things, they don't live in a vacuum, right? The impact that we do, it can affect, engagement, reach, being adaptable. So this is great conversation we've had, which I think will carry right over into the next discussion. And this example that I wanted to share is the Gemini Rotary Club supports a smaller resort community where many of the residents live seasonally. They would love to grow, but struggle to attract new membership. Several of their current attendees belong to Rotary clubs in their home state. They suspect that there might be others in the area with the same situation. They're considering recruiting more of them to at least attend their meetings in the summer. So I'm wondering if anybody else can relate to this, kind of having snowbirds or people that might not be living in your community all the time.
Julie?
Yes.
I have more of a related question to this because it has come up, especially with so many clubs either meeting completely online or in kind of a hybrid or blended environment.
Mm-hmm.
Is that there's been more occasions because of this that people have joined clubs when they're not in the community that the club considers its host area because they're online or they move, but they still want to be a member. And so I've just reminded them that many of our clubs bylaws, as they were written originally, talk about, our membership is from our regional area, and it kind of defines, what the boundaries are for that. But with it being online, legitimately, there really are no boundaries, presumably. So I'm wondering whether we're going to see either in the next round of the club constitution or some document that kind of reinforces that the regional notion of membership may not be as relevant as long as we've got online access for people and the ability for them to participate in service projects and things like that.
Absolutely, good points. Actually, that makes me think of a recent e-club that formed. Technically its region it's assigned to a district in California, but its membership is global. And they're actually, I think, called the Global Action Rotary Club. And what they do with some of their rotating members who might travel the globe or they live seasonally in different places, they have really good engaging programs online, but then they also have service and outreach days where they all plan in the communities where they are currently at to do, maybe it's a park cleanup, maybe it's collaborating with a certain type of nonprofit in their area, focusing on home and food insecurity, something like that. They collaboratively help each other figure out how to do this in their communities, and then they go out and do it. They try and get some photos, maybe bring some friends along with them. But I feel like they're a good one. They would be a good one to watch if people are looking to maybe engage travelers or snowbirds or, that kind of thing.
So
Tom.
really the only limitation to that, I'm sorry, the really only limitation to that is the club's bylaws. Is that right, Julie?
Right. So I mean, and that's the thing. I think this kind of goes back to our impact and adapting. I think the club policies that we write and how we draft our bylaws can be updated to be like, we can't some of the things can't be thrown away, right? Like some of them have to stay standard per Rotary, but there's a lot of flexibility in how we can word these things to make it more approachable to our membership. I think I even heard somebody recently saying they had a club that had drafted or updated their bylaws to push out people who were in arrears with their membership fees. That was their way of handling it. And instead of it actually drawing people in, it pushed people away. So there's a lot of power in policy. And I think thoughtfully updating those policies and our bylaws can really create impact and flexibility in how we serve, how we engage. Hi, Tom.
Okay, I'm back. As the district council on the legislation rep, I would point out to everybody here, the Standard Club Constitution talks about membership and so forth, but ultimately the enforcement body is the board of directors. And if the board of directors doesn't decide to dismiss somebody in accordance with the rules, then that's perfectly legal. My club had a member living, again, I'm in Albuquerque, living in Falls Church, Virginia. He was a former member. He liked our club. He kept paying his dues, and he was happy with the arrangement. And he was a member for 25 years, living in Virginia. And again, it's pretty much up to the board. And if the board decides it's okay, it's okay enough. As we've been told, there are no Rotary police on this kind of stuff. So,
Yeah, we had the same thing, Tom. We had and we do that in Taos. So I know, I think we've got a guy who lives Van, who has a second home here. A lot of people, I said, with second homes, and he had a house in Virginia, had another gentleman in Oklahoma, Stillwater, and we lost him, I think, let's be honest, with the current politics. But he's a great guy. He's still friends. We had a couple more other people that have kept their membership, paid their dues in Taos because they feel that we're doing, in regards to good work. So yeah, it's true. It's up to the board for sure.
I think right now too, with social media, there's a lot of opportunity to be promoting your club's work, getting attention, not just from the people that travel, but in general. I think using that tool to your advantage, and posting what your projects are, because if you have a fundraiser and it's online, that's not just pertaining to your individual community where you live. That could be impactful everywhere. All right. Any other comments? And it can be about attracting new members in general too. It doesn't have to be just this example. If you're struggling with something, we can always discuss that. All right. Well then, if I will let us take a break here. If you want to meet back here at okay. Next section is talking about engagement and engaging. We can tell too by a lot of the trends within Rotary, when we don't engage new members, when we don't engage current members, we get a type of revolving door where we might have a strong public image bringing people in. How can we keep them here and keep them satisfied, like we were talking about earlier? So here's the example that I wanted to share. Okay, the North Star Rotary Club has a wonderful group of leaders who have become fatigued due to the 80-20 rule. It's funny that Willis literally just said 80-20 during the break. And for those of you who don't know what that means, it's 20% of the people doing 80% of the work, right? They've now succeeded in growing their membership, but some of the newer members are not regularly participating, coming to meetings, or taking on leadership roles. Some of them are small business owners, unable to get away at lunch, while others are busy with family and other responsibilities. They've tried to host events in the evening, but that doesn't seem to help. I feel like, and I could be mistaken here, but I feel like this is something that a lot of clubs could possibly relate to. And if you want to share your example of what your club has dealt with that's similar to this, or what you've tried doing, I would love to hear it. Carolyn, see your hand up.
So I'm glad Jermaine is on this call, because she actually alerted me to this a few years ago, is that our Rotary Club of Santa Fe, we have fundraisers like Pancakes on the Plaza. We raise $100,000 that we give out to nonprofits locally. And Jermaine alerted me to, there are nonprofit organizations that push to have an employee from their nonprofit on the club. Now, we want members, of course, on the club so that they can direct money to their clubs, to their nonprofits. And so, and we have a couple of members right now on the nonprofits that really, just like in the example, don't participate. But I know that when we have our committees to disperse that money, that they'll be on those committees to direct those funds. So it's kind of an interesting, we want them. They're great people, but there's that kind of underlying motivation that kind of grinds at me, I guess.
I could see that. Like, especially if you're trying out different ways to engage them and you're not really getting much response. I'm curious, did you reach out, try and do like maybe one-on-ones with some of the members, or see what might be happening with them personally too?
No.
So I feel like that's, I don't know, this pandemic has definitely made me prioritize member check-ins. And it doesn't have to be formal. Like if they want to jump on a Zoom call with me or go for a coffee, I kind of try and meet them where they're at. If they're literally too busy that they just want a WhatsApp text or phone call, like I try and meet them where they're at, and I just let them know I'm thinking about them. And if they are all good and they've just been neglecting Rotary, then it acts as not a guilt-free nudge, so to speak. And in the same time, lets them know that I'm thinking about them. Who doesn't like that, right? to know that your club is thinking about you. And I know Carolyn can't be the only one. Who else has had to deal with this, or has made attempts to engage these members? Have any of, oh,
Hi, this is Jermaine again.
yes.
I just wanted to share that with Santa Fe Del Sur, we have members who have been Rotarians for 30, 40 years. And I sense that they are just burned out. But I think they're burned out because they've been doing the same thing over and over and over again. And so our goal has been trying to identify ways in which we could do something new without making it seem overwhelming for our 80-plus-year-old members, because they still have the spirit of Rotary in them, but they are literally burned out on doing the same thing over again. And I can give you an example. They literally became excited when we partnered on the blood drive. That was something new. That was something that they could do. They could give water out. registration was a huge winning opportunity for 80-year-olds. So that's where we are right now. They're burned out with just doing the same old stuff, but we just need to be more creative in creating new opportunity. I'm complete.
Thank you for sharing that. That's burnout. And burnout, maybe like you mentioned, burnout isn't always having too much to do, but sometimes just doing the same thing over and over. Nobody wants a Groundhog Day experience when they're engaging with Rotary. That actually made me think of the Rotary Club of North Cobb. I'm so envious of their club. They have such a cool thing that they've been doing. And it inspired me, Jermaine, by what you said about partnering on the blood drive. And this club has doubled their membership over the last 5 years, increased their retention. And how they did that was every new member, they do this, interview with them, find out what they're really passionate about. And then within that quarter, within the first 3 months of them being there, they either create a project based on that interest or partner on a project. And it just it overwhelms the new member with like, whoa, like you heard me, you've actively shown me that I can do more with this club than just on my own, right? You're creating now an impact of not just one, but a whole group of people. They turn around, they tell their friends because they're so excited and their friends want to join. And the same thing happens over and over. And what happens for those existing members is they get new ideas. It's built into the culture that there's going to be new projects to try out, so that maybe you're preventing that Groundhog Day experience, so to speak. So I love what they do. And I love the idea of fostering, trying out new things and not being afraid to, building that into the culture. I saw a hand up. Bob, yes.
Yeah. Julie, we have, and to address Jermaine's comment, in our district, we have a strategic planning cadre at the district level. And one thing we're fostering as an added benefit from them is also their ability to help clubs in an innovation way, help them innovate and come up with new ideas of doing the same, accomplish the same goals, but in different ways to keep it fresh. So if clubs are interested in that, please reach out to our strategic planning cadre. Jeff Weinreich is our point of contact for that too, and we can help you in that area.
Thank you for that. And while we've got everybody here mostly on camera, Jeff, I'll go ahead and take that quick picture while you're thinking of more things to say, maybe. What was that?
I got one from Jimmy that he took,
sweet.
Went ahead and posted. Thank you.
Then never mind, let your hair down. You don't have to worry about looking ready for a photo.
I want to also share one more partnering opportunity that my new members are still talking about. My club partnered with Carolyn's club during the pandemic when they were literally handing milk out, because a lot of the underserved communities in Santa Fe, when you went to the grocery store, you were only allowed to buy 1 gallon of milk because of shortage. So families that had multiple individuals living in their homes, they were struggling. And so when the downtown club created this opportunity to distribute milk to the to the community, my new members jumped on it. And to this very day, they are still talking about that. So partnering with other opportunities is also huge in retention with members, especially new members.
I love that example. Yes. And I think sometimes when we're burnt out from perhaps leading some of these projects, if you bond with one or more other clubs, you can almost take turns kind of leading these projects. Like, we'll lead this one. If would you love to be extra hands, or would you like to, if you have the bandwidth, partner on this, and then the next one maybe will support your initiative. And I love that. And talk about building connection during a really trying time. That's a great example. I saw Carolyn light up too when you mentioned it. Patrick. Oh, you're muted, Patrick. There you go.
When I joined Rotary, I had been probably to my first or second meeting, and our president was Sharon Caballero, and she had just also been president of Highlands University. So she was accustomed to getting things done and getting things done quickly. And she pulled me aside and she said, I want you to run our golf tournament coming up in July. And I said, well, I don't golf. I'm not networked with these people. And she said, I'm going to partner you with the person that's been in charge for a number of years. And so we co-chaired the golf tournament. And what she did, she challenged me to learn something and network with people that I don't normally network with. And I learned a lot. And the thing that I learned from this woman, Sharon, was that, people will step up if you ask them. She asked me in private. She didn't put me on the spot, but she complimented. She said, I think you can do this. I think you will fit well in this and you're going to learn and eventually you can take it over. And I'm still co-chairing that event with the person that was co-chairing with me way back then. But we've been extremely successful, and we've grown it. And that's one thing I learned from her, that if you get somebody in new and right away you assign them, you study them and see what they like and see what they might be good at, and assign them to something so that they can be part of a team right away and fit in with others who are doing something successful. And I found that to be something that has really helped me as president when new people come in.
Thank you for sharing that. And I liked especially where you noted that she approached you not in front of the whole club. There can be some accompanying pressure there that, though it might get the result that they desire as far as someone's leading the initiative, we don't know necessarily what that person is dealing with outside of the club or even in other aspects of the club. So it could be a more complicated, they might lead that project then and then never again. So I think the way that they did it was just right, playing to your strengths, appealing to you on your own and making sure, and look at, you're still doing it. That's excellent. That's great.
And she made me feel like I was part of something right away, that I was part of the group. And I thought that was really helpful, even though I knew a lot of people in the group already. But she put me to work right away and learning something different, learning something new. And the other thing that she did, she was always very public, very complimentary, which certainly helps with a lot of people like to hear that they're doing a good job. And she was very, very good at that. I learned a lot from her.
That's wonderful. Yeah, acknowledgement goes a long way. Jimmy, I see your hands up, and then Richard after Jimmy.
Yes, I'm happy to be on. I'm the assistant governor here in El Paso. And one of the clubs here in El Paso, which is the Sunrise Rotary Club, the president has put together social events at the last Thursday of every month. So we have our monthly council presidents meeting where all the presidents of El Paso Club meets, and invitation goes out to all the clubs. And I must say, because of that, they've been able to get the public relation or the director or wherever the facility that they're hosting the fellowship gets them to join the club. And I think that's a great way to reach out to especially the young people, because it's really, really a great event that they have.
Thank you. Richard, you wanted to say something too.
I was just going to say that I think one of the things, and you've really mentioned it, is to focus on the strengths of your club and use those to do that recruiting. For instance, I joined the Sunrise Rotary Club because I knew I could not get away at lunch from work. And that was the only way I was going to be able to be involved if it was a morning club. So we actually used the fact that we're a morning club to try to get some of those members to join us on their way to work. To us, it's a lot easier for somebody that's driving down into Albuquerque, for instance, to stop by, have the meeting at 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock, have the breakfast, and then continue on down into Albuquerque for their work. So we try to make them realize how it's much easier to fit us into their schedule. And then also, we've gone to the same thing with the social, the fourth week of the month. And so we can also get them as they come back up on their way to home. They can stop by for a brief social at a brewery or a winery or a small restaurant or whatever. And then we also play to what our main function is we support nursing scholarships for nurses that are going to stay in the area. And so if we can focus in on nursing and the help, and especially in the time of pandemic when that's been at the forefront of everybody, we hope that we can get people to understand that's one of our major functions. So looking at what our club does and when we meet, and really emphasizing that in our recruiting pitch, we're hopefully gonna pay off in the long run.
That's excellent. Thank you so much for sharing that. And we are going to, let's see, we're going to move on. And actually, that was Richard. It's like you set us up for the next topic, which is to talk about adapting. And again, these things don't live in a vacuum. So when you're looking at adapting, that can be how you engage to your current members. That can be perhaps even expanding into a new club coming from your club, or a new satellite club coming from your club, which we'll also talk just a little bit about in case you have any questions there. Here's the example I wanted to share from you all. The Virgo Rotary Club is very engaged in the community and has drawn in new volunteers and members with a robust social media campaign. They are currently updating their new member orientation, leadership training, and succession planning. They have a wealth of active, experienced, and seasoned leaders in the club. However, these same leaders are unwilling to share power and consider new projects, innovative ideas, or evolve club processes shared by newer members. Have any of you all experienced that? Yeah, I see some hands again. And I think sometimes we're not even aware of it. You know, we get into a groove. We become this well-oiled machine of this is how it's done, and I can do it most efficiently this way, instead of being open to possibilities where it might improve who all is affected, who all is, you know, sitting at the table, getting engaged by this project, this fundraiser, this, you know, streamlined process. And how long do you think those new members that don't feel like they actually get to contribute meaningfully, how long do you think they really stay at the club?
It's a year, right? Or less.
It's usually between 1 to 2 years that if they don't feel like they're really a part of it, if they haven't really cracked in, if they feel like they're on the outside and, you know, members might be friendly, but they feel like they're crashing a family reunion where it's just like, oh, okay, I'm just a passing face here. I don't actually see myself here because the ideas that I'm contributing don't really seem to be going anywhere. Well, then maybe I'll move along and share those ideas with someone else, right? Yeah. So what are some approaches that we can work towards building these relationships with these really valued, expert, seasoned Rotarians that have all this knowledge and influence? How can we build those connections between them and some of the fresh ideas and newer members that are wanting to make some impact in the club and in their community, and that wants to be engaged? They want to integrate with the club, but there seems to be this barrier.
What about a fireside chat? I know it's really, when you have a chance like we're doing now, you can share some experience, and then they feel in regards validated. You have this regards of one-on-one, maybe having, the new members and take turns letting these people share their experience with the club and what the club history is.
I like that. I like changing it up too, right? The fact that you even said like fireside chat, that could just be a completely different format than what your club's used to doing. And even just taking them out of that, the usual elements, changing environments like that can kind of push back expectations of how they usually engage in Rotary, maybe. I like that a lot. I saw, lots of hands, yes. How about Dean next? And then I saw another hand popping up too.
Yeah, I think that there is a difference between formal and informal power in most Rotary clubs, probably, and there's people that have been around for a long time that have a lot of informal power that, they're great people. They have a lot of good ideas and they participate a lot and everything, but they don't even realize it. They think they're doing what's best for the club, and when new ideas come up, why either they have other ideas or they want to keep doing things the same way that they've done them in the past, and so I think we need to be aware of that power structure, the informal power structure, before we can be a formal leader. And I think one way to do that is to have committees, and you might have to educate the committee members how they can make motions that overrule, that go over a committee chair and things like that, And so educating people on how they can help these people realize that there is a demand for doing it differently.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Bob, I see your hands up.
When I joined my club, I was assigned a mentor, and later on I became a mentor for another new member. And so I think that's another way of getting new members to feel they're included and they're part of the club, is to get that mentorship going, and a little cross conversation between the seasoned member and the new members, so they can both learn from each other. So I encourage clubs to maybe implement a mentorship program for the new people.
I like that. And they're building those relationships, and maybe a member who already thought, oh, I have enough friends. Well, you never know who's going to surprise you. You got a new friend that you're mentoring that you might have bonded with that you weren't expecting to. It also makes me think of something Patrick had said in the last section, which is, reaching out to ask for these, to ask somebody to lead. I think you can reach out and, like kind of what Dean said too about informal power there, reaching out to get buy-in from those members that have a lot of influence over other members or over the direction of the club, and saying, we've got this new member, they've got great ideas. I know how wonderful you are at doing this project, but would you let's try and work with this person. I feel like you could teach them a lot, and you might be surprised at what you'll learn from them, getting that buy-in and helping build those relationships, while also letting those seasoned members know how much they truly mean to the club. Trying something new does not mean that what was being done was bad, but there might be just a a newer way, an easier way, a simplified way of doing things. And you never know until you try. I see Bob and then Jeff. Oh, Bob, you're muted.
Bob?
Yep,
there we
got it. Thank you. I think one of the things we forget when we talk about service to others is the variety of ways within Rotary that can happen. It happens in participating in club outside events where you're actually doing something directly for others, but it also occurs in club leadership and committee meetings and participating in other clubs within your locale events. So there's lots of ways, and I think one of the important things about meeting with new members that come in is to find out where their focus is. Some new members come in and they want to get their hands dirty, cleaning parks up or helping build and refurbish old people's homes. And others come in willing to go participate in a golf tournament that gives the proceeds to a charity. We choose a charity every 3 years, and our golf tournament proceeds go to that. But there are people that don't see that as service within the club, I think.
Mm.
So I think we have to make it clear when we bring a new member on what service to others means.
Mm. Get their interpretation and then also share what the club is doing. I like that. Yeah. And I think you're right. We had a prospective member show up to our park cleanup, and afterwards she said, I learned today that I don't like cleaning parks. And I said, that is fair. That is fair. Let's get you at a different event then. Jeff, you had raised your hand.
Yeah, when we conduct Rotary Leadership Institute, we talk about Rotary Community Corps, which I don't believe our district has any, but I'm very intrigued by the notion that these are people that are not Rotarians, but they work with clubs on service projects if they're, let's say, architects or engineers or something. I'm curious for the districts that have Rotary Community Corps, if ultimately the people that are in those groups join clubs, or if they just stay in those separate groups, because it seems like it's a great opportunity. And maybe I don't know what the rationale is why they don't join, but I'm very intrigued by the idea that there are these people to work with who are by definition not Rotarians, at least yet.
That's a good question. And I would say as a good assessment too, Rotary Community Corps are huge. They are different all across the world. Like I know in the Philippines, there are so many Rotary Community Corps, and it has helped with sometimes some of the leaders that rise up within a community corps go on to become Rotarians. But I feel like how Americans kind of approach it is a lot of times they won't actually formalize a Rotary Community Corps, but instead kind of nickname a group of regular volunteers as Friends of Rotary. I don't know if that's relevant in New Mexico, but I know that's definitely the case in the Midwest. And I think valuing that participation in Rotary is really important too. These are people that are looking to serve, and they're looking to serve through Rotary. Not everyone is interested in membership, especially initially, and that's okay. I think maintaining and building on these relationships though are key, not just to, again, connecting with the lifeblood of your community, you never know where a great idea is going to come from, a wonderful donation, a potential partnership. So I think making sure that your membership committees or your club leaders understand the importance of engaging that group of people too, whether they're formalized community core or just someone that shows up, which is so important. I saw Carolyn's hand raised, and then James, you'll go next.
So with our major fundraiser being Pancakes on the Plaza on 4th of July, we attract up to 16,000 people to the plaza that day. We have a group, and you know what, I never even thought about this before. We have a group of people, like a very large group of people, that drive out from Oklahoma to flip pancakes for us. Now our volunteer coordinator for that, she's in constant communication with them. I don't think they're Rotarians, and they're aging, and they have done this for 40 years. That is a tremendous idea for us to reach out to their community to say, you know what, this is still going on. We still need you guys. So that is a fabulous idea. Thank you.
Well,
Awesome.
I was going to talk about the same thing. I've been in the Rotary Club of Santa Fe a little longer than Carolyn, and when I first joined the club, the Pancakes on the Plaza was sponsored by 3 groups: the Rotary Club of Santa Fe, the Santa Fe New Mexican, the newspaper, and the Chamber of Commerce. And the Chamber of Commerce decided that wasn't their business, and the New Mexican decided they could help by putting a full-page ads in their newspaper, and so it became a Rotary project. But as Carolyn's mentioned, lots of people are involved. We have members of the other 2 Rotary clubs in Santa Fe that work on committees that are related to it, and we have Kiwanis members who come and help us flip pancakes and so on, and the Santa Fe concert band plays, and the governors always show up, and the last governor flipped pancakes I think every year of her 8 years in office, and I'm not sure, well, our new governor hasn't had a chance to do it, I guess, because we had to stop it. But it's really a project that's much bigger than Santa Fe Rotary Club, and sometimes we get the credit, but we're certainly not doing it by ourselves.
Great points. And yeah, there's a lot of potential to engage these group of people who obviously they're making the trek. They care about this and they prioritize it. And there's the platform of membership leads where somebody can go to rotary.org and say they're interested in joining a club, and we'll connect that person with the district, and then hopefully they get set up with a club. But there's also member referrals. So you as a Rotarian could go in and say, I know this person, I think they'd make a great Rotarian. Regardless of their location, they then could get in touch with Rotary District and perhaps find a club closer to where they live if that's something that they're interested in. And I have to say, of all the things, that's been the most successful is when there's member referrals, because a Rotarian said, I know this person, they do great service, they're very engaged, something like that. It weighs a lot. Raul, did I see your hand go up? I can't tell if it was that or the fan. Okay. Oh, and James.
Oh, let me just say one other thing. The Pancakes on the Plaza project, the people who come to get to eat pancakes and participate pay $7 or something like that for their meals. But the money that we really raise comes from sponsorships, and those sponsorships are that's where the money that we give out comes from. And so it's the various banks and the car dealerships and everybody else in town that wants to donating that really makes it happen. And many of those people send people from their own offices to come and help us help us make the pancakes and so on. So, yeah.
That's excellent. I'm curious too, for this event, do you promote what upcoming other Rotary events are going to, or do you promote what this money goes to in their community. I love this tiny club in Colorado recently rebranded, and their membership has exploded from it, where they sell peaches. That's one of their big fundraisers, but they literally say, like, it's got a picture of a peach pit and it turns it into a peach, and then it says your money, and it turns it into, it has a picture of what monies from that project went to. So it could be a cool way to integrate, like, did you know the money that you're spending today will go to this in your community? Like, if you're not doing something like that, that could be something kind of cool.
Yeah.
And that's where the New Mexican paper comes in, very helpful, because after our Pancakes on the Plaza, we also do a half or full page ad, depending on the amount, of where the monies went. All of the nonprofits were who we gave to.
Awesome. That's great. Well, and before we move on from this example, one thing, because I'd heard that there was a lot of curiosity about satellite clubs. In the example that I had shared before, where there's this, disconnect between new, active, engaged members and seasoned Rotarians who are holding a lot of the leadership roles. If you try as you might and you can't make the oil and water mix, that creating a satellite club could be a possible way to adapt and kind of pivot to engage some of these active members so that they don't feel like they're being held back. And for those of you who don't know, a satellite club, it's not an independent Rotary club. You only need 8 members as opposed to 20 members to charter. And essentially a satellite can stay tethered to that sponsor club forever. There's no timeline on when it would need to stop, or it could evolve and grow off and become their own separate Rotary club. But the idea is that your club would kind of help mentor the existence of this new club. There's been a lot of push for new clubs in Rotary, and I think the push comes from just having more options. We've heard some great examples today about, I think Richard had mentioned, meeting for lunch just wasn't going to happen. So meeting for breakfast was the best thing for him. We've heard times where people struggle to meet at lunch or in the evening. Whatever the case may be, whatever the barrier is to people engaging with that club, it could be the time, it could be the location, it could be the direction. Starting a satellite club that has a separate direction in their efforts in the community. They're saying, oh, hey, you really focus in on these big projects. I love that. You keep doing that. We're going to work on these other things over here, and maybe we'll collaborate sometimes. There's room for more, and satellite clubs might be the way that you engage those members if you can't actually get some of the newer members to solidify with the seasoned members. And I see we've got a comment from Jeff as chair of the, nice, very nice. Very cool, starting a satellite club. Again, just another option. And that's the great thing about all the flexibility that has been encouraged now in Rotary, is that instead of expecting people to fit a mold, we're breaking the mold and we're meeting people where they're at and assessing their needs and assessing the community. And these are just other tools you don't have to use, but are available to you. All right, and want to move us along for time's sake so we get you out of here on time. So what I wanted to talk about next was, okay, we've had a lot of really good, healthy discussion. I hope that you've been taking down notes when you hear something that strikes an idea that makes you want to investigate, that maybe even makes you want to reach out to other members on this call to say, like, hey, you talked about this. I want to know more. I want to know the nuts and bolts of this. So I wanted to talk about like these 3 questions and how they pertain to you. How do we break out of our comfort zone? What's holding us back with some of the goals that we have. What is it today that you want to take back most to your club, that you're really excited to talk about, and perhaps even implement in your club? And then this is the biggest thing. I think sometimes in Rotary, when we talk about, you hear these inspirational quotes, or you hear really cool things being done, and then it comes down to, right, like I want to do that, but how? Where is it that you were like, I got the idea, I just don't know how to actually get it started in our club, or we're stuck at this line in the process? So I want to open this discussion up now to you all to kind of address some of these questions. And is there anyone that wants to share any of the answer to these questions, or anything that you're struggling with, or where you're feeling stuck? Carolyn.
I love the idea of the membership scholarships. And so, I need to give some thought, and your thoughts would be welcome about how to start that with our board. So of course I'm on the board, but approaching this is probably, needs to be diplomatic. Any suggestions for starting a scholarship fund?
We had a committee of 3 of us about 2 years ago that sat down and tried to figure out how we could do this, and so we came up with guidelines. And I have no idea where those guidelines are now, but we're basically following what we came out with there, and so I think you need to get some other people, to discuss it with and figure out how it would work best with your club.
Thank you.
And also, Carolyn, you have that member, that potential member, you got a real person as an example. If you could forward, in regards to Dean or myself, your email, because our past president, I think, was on that committee in regards to Louis Gentet, and he's very copious about notes, and we can get that to you. In regards to Grady Edley, you could talk to Grady. I'm a friend of Grady, who's in your downtown club, and we can get that to you, Carolyn.
Love that.
Thank you. Excellent.
Julie,
Yes.
if I understand your question, Governor Bob mentioned earlier this kind of innovation group that we have to support clubs, and whether you use the innovation group or not, it's important for other people, let's say newer members, to be part of the decision making, because generally the people who have been doing it for a while come up with the same ideas. So you kind of get, 2 bangs for your buck. You get new members engaged, and when their ideas are brought forward and discussed and hopefully approved, the club moves forward, because those new ideas kind of help elevate things that maybe were not done before. So it just seems like getting new members involved as soon as possible is
Well, and then you've also got new perspectives and different perspectives that haven't necessarily been included. And so I agree completely. We've got a couple of comments here, one from Willis about working on a membership committee that'll meet monthly. If you want, reach out to Willis if you want to participate in that.
Please do.
And Jermaine, I love your comments that intercultural competence trainings should be included in all district trainings. I think what we can learn from each other, I think, I think how I put this in my own club too, is like creating the culture of calling in, not necessarily calling out, but calling in. So if we have a more inclusive way of saying something or doing something, holding each other accountable. But that doesn't go without training first and understanding all the people that we interact with and the various things that are meaningful or part of their identity and how to approach that. So I love that. Also, makes me want to share too. There's a really, really robust online diversity, equity, inclusion, and Rotary course coming out. I actually helped build. We put a lot of time into this. So if you're trying to be a champion of having these difficult conversations and involving more people in your club, that could be a good place to start. It's not available yet, but it will be. Richard.
I just wanted to emphasize what one of the things I want to take back to my club is that comment initially about reaching out and cooperating with other organizations in the community as a way to reach out to the different ethnicities and to the younger crowd. And so forming those partnerships, organization to organization, is going to be great for marketing Rotary also, and maybe picking up some members from some of those other groups to join us too. So I just like the idea of that cooperation among clubs.
I like it too. And one tip I'll throw out there too, because I've had someone take that advice and they were kind of upset that they'd reached out and the nonprofit that they wanted to work with didn't really want to participate in the project they were offering. And so they wanted to quit trying to work out the relationship. I'm like, hang on a second, relationships are reciprocal. They don't, did you make a friend overnight? The cases where that happens is really rare. It takes time and patience. And maybe it means you helping with their projects first, getting to know them and not expecting anything in return. Other than hopefully a deep connection and then seeing where it goes from there. But I love that you're going to be looking at how you can reach out to those organizations. But those are my tips. Is, you know, it doesn't happen overnight and that's okay. All right, well, we are at the end here. I wanted to show really quickly, here's some resources that you were emailed that can really help you with your journey. Rotary's action plan, which is what we kind of focused around today. If you go to this website, there are so many different things that you can use. Stories, examples of what other clubs have done, how you can approach your club about this. Strategic planning guide. This is where you want to customize some of the goals that you're working on. And it could be from 3 to 5 years. And then I listed also a whole bunch of resources for each of these steps. And there's my contact information. I work closely with Willis. And I've known Jeff for years. So if for some reason, if you even want to collaboratively reach out about a question, I love to work with groups of people. So always happy to answer any questions, make some connections, share success stories. Or if you want to tell me your success story, and inspire other Rotary clubs, I want to hear about it. But Willis and I are really excited that you were able to join today. It's been a pleasure getting to know him. Like I said, Jeff, I feel like I've known for most of my Rotary career, which is pretty cool. But yeah, any lasting thoughts you want to share? I'm going to hang out, but you've got this time back to your day, and I really hope that you've got some tangible ideas or action items you can bring back to your club.
Thank you so much. This was very helpful.
Yep. Julie, could you put your contact information up again, please?
Oh, sure.
Thanks.
There we go.
Well, Julie, thank you so much for presenting. I think like everybody's been saying, we've been learning a lot. There's a lot of good ideas floating. I put my contact information down. Again, I would want to kind of restart the district membership committee where we would meet on a monthly basis, and I will start sending that out. So love to have representation from each club so that we can, do this even if it's a short time on a monthly basis, and kind of kick some ideas around so we can get that going. If anybody ever has any questions anytime, just give me a call or an email. I appreciate all of the input prior to the meeting because it kind of helped us reshape the meeting. And Julie just knocked it out of the park today. So thank you so much, Jeff. Appreciate you hosting. And so, James, you have a question?
Yeah. I didn't register until late last night, and so if there are some emails that went out before, is there a way I can get them?
Certainly.
Okay. Thanks.
If you can just email me your information, I will make sure you get all those emails from before.
Okay, so put your email up again.
If you look in the chat about 3 or 4 back, but I will certainly put it back up here again.
Oh,
And Louis, you should have Jim's email because I sent you the full registrant list.
Oh, so you did register then, James?
yes, I registered last night.
Okay, yep. So I
Oh,
will go ahead and
thank
send you
you.
that. I apologize.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for all who shared your stories ahead of time. As you can tell, I literally reshaped our case studies into that because I wanted to make this really relevant. But thank you. They were great examples and unfortunately not uncommon examples of struggles that we have in membership. Bob, I think I saw your hand up.
I just wanted to thank you again, Julie, for being such a great leader today. You weren't teaching, you were facilitating and sharing and helping everybody share their best practices and be open to sharing their challenges too. So I think that was excellent. And Willis, I appreciate you and Jeff putting all this together and bringing us all together today. Great ideas shared. It's going to help us grow in numbers and service. Jermaine, thanks for joining us both as your club president as our diversity, equity, and inclusion chair for the district. Your inputs were great. I appreciate that as well. So thanks everybody for spending your Saturday morning with us, and I look forward to seeing more of you on my travels.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, guys. It was a very fulfilling reunion. Thank you.
Oh, good.